It started with a fence. A storm had knocked part of it down, and Ethan said he'd get around to it, but weeks passed and the gap stayed. Just like the one between us. He worked long hours, came home late, and when he did, it was like he wasn't, even there. Dinner in silence, scrolling through his phone, eyes glazed. I used to ask him about his day, try to make conversation. Eventually, I stopped trying. Silence felt less exhausting. One morning, I scheduled a repair myself. I didn't even tell him until the guy showed up. His name was Liam. Mid-30s, with kind eyes and a warm voice that didn't rush through sentences. He smiled when he introduced himself. Not one of those salesman grins. Genuine. I offered him water. He thanked me like it actually meant something. The next few days, he came by to work on the fence. I found myself noticing things I hadn't in a while. The way he looked me in the eye when we talked. The way he listened. It wasn't flirting. Not yet. But there was something different. Something I missed. At first, I told myself it was just nice to have someone acknowledge me. I convinced myself it was harmless, friendly, normal. Ethan barely noticed. He asked about the bill, not about how my day went. Not once did he look out the window and watch the work being done. Not once did he ask who the man was, and I didn't volunteer it. Maybe I wanted to keep it mine. One afternoon, Liam complimented the jasmine vines along the back fence. "They're beautiful," he said. "You take good care of them." I looked at him, then at the flowers. I couldn't remember the last time someone noticed anything I did around the house. The words stayed with me longer than they should have. I felt something tighten in my chest, not butterflies, guilt, maybe, or maybe longing. I told myself I was imagining things, that I just needed attention, that it would pass. But deep down, I knew I was stepping towards something dangerous. I just didn't know how far I'd go. Liam kept showing up on time, always with a casual hello and a half smile that made the morning feel lighter. I started making an extra cup of coffee just in case he wanted one. He always said yes. He'd sit for a few minutes before getting to work, and somehow, those few minutes became the part of the day I looked forward to most. We didn't talk about anything dramatic. Just small things, music, weather, a book he saw on my porch. But the way he listened made it all feel important. I realized how long it had been since I felt truly heard. I noticed I started brushing my hair in the mornings again, putting on lipstick even if I had nowhere to go. He was careful, respectful, never said anything inappropriate. But something was building in the space between our words. I could feel it. The way his eyes lingered just a second too long. The way he remembered tiny things I said. He asked if I painted the garden bench myself. I had. Ethan never noticed it. I caught myself watching Liam through the window while he worked. Once he looked up and caught me. I pretended I was just passing by, but my face flushed. I wasn't proud of it. But I didn't stop either. That evening, Ethan came home late again. I tried to tell him about my day, something funny Liam had said. But I stopped myself midway, realizing I didn't even want to say his name out loud. Ethan was half listening, nodding as he typed something on his laptop. When I asked if he wanted to sit outside with me for a bit, he said he was too tired. The next morning, Liam handed me a small wooden piece. "I carved it from one of the broken posts," he said. It was nothing fancy, just a smooth, sanded piece in the shape of a leaf. But I stared at it for longer than I should have. He shrugged. Thought it matched the garden. I nodded, too quietly, and tucked it into my pocket like it was something sacred. Later that day, I told Claire about him. She listened, arms crossed. "Maya," she said, "you know where this is going?" I said I didn't, but I did. We both did. The storm came in fast. Thunder, heavy wind, the kind that shakes the windows. Ethan was away for a conference, and I was alone in the house when Liam texted. Fence's corner is loose. I can come by just to make sure it holds through the night. I should have said no. I told myself it was about safety. It wasn't. He showed up soaked, hair dripping, shirt clinging to his skin. I offered him a towel and we ended up in the garage, just standing there, the rain pounding above us. I said something about the weather, but my voice was shaky. He noticed. "You all right?" he asked. I shrugged. "I don't even know anymore." He didn't try to fill the silence. I did. I talked. Too much. About how lonely I felt, how Ethan and I hadn't touched each other in weeks, how I didn't even recognize my marriage anymore. My voice cracked. I turned away. Then I felt his hand on my arm, light, not demanding, just there. "You don't deserve to feel invisible," he said. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I just looked at him. It was a small step forward, then another, then the kiss. It wasn't fast, it was careful, almost sad, like we both knew what we were breaking in the process. His lips met mine, and for the first time in years, I felt something that wasn't numb. His hands were warm, familiar, too quickly. There was a desperation between us, the kind that builds up over months of silence and unmet needs. We didn't rush. That's what made it worse. It wasn't a mistake in the dark. It was a decision, a quiet agreement between two people who should have known better. Afterward, we didn't say much. He buttoned his shirt. I pulled my sleeves down. I looked at the floor. "This wasn't supposed to happen," I whispered. He nodded. "I know." When he left, I stood at the door for a long time. The rain was still falling, but it sounded different now. Not peaceful, not wild, just empty. I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, retracing every moment. The guilt settled in slowly, like dust. I didn't cry. I just kept thinking, what have I done? The next morning felt sharp. Everything around me was still. The dishes, the folded blanket, the fixed fence. But I wasn't. I avoided my reflection. When Ethan came home that evening, I hugged him longer than usual. He didn't ask why. I couldn't tell if he noticed. Something off or just didn't care to. I wanted to confess, and I didn't. The words hovered behind my teeth, heavy and burning, but they never made it out. Liam didn't come back. The job was done. No call, no goodbye, just silence and a memory I couldn't undo. Claire came over that weekend. I told her everything. Every word. Every moment. She listened without interruption, but her face said enough. She didn't judge me, not out loud. Just said, "Now you have to decide what you want, what you're willing to live with." I didn't reach out to Liam. I didn't need closure. I already knew how that chapter would end. We didn't belong in each other's lives. He wasn't the villain, and I wasn't his. We were two people who crossed a line because something inside us had cracked. He gave me attention, but what I really wanted was to feel alive again. A few days later, I found the wooden leaf he'd carved. I almost threw it out. Instead, I tucked it in the back of a drawer where I wouldn't see it, but I'd know it was there. That night, I asked Ethan if we could talk. Really talk. He looked tired, but he nodded. I didn't tell him what happened. I told him I felt lost, that I missed us, that we hadn't touched each other in weeks and I didn't know how to reach him anymore. He stayed quiet, then said, "I thought you were fine." That sentence hurt more than anything. I realized we'd both been pretending. We agreed to start counseling. I don't know if it'll fix anything. I don't even know what I want from it yet. But it's a step, a slow, honest one. The fence is solid again, no gaps, no creaks. But me? I'm still rebuilding. Not because of Liam, because somewhere along the way I stopped guarding my own boundaries, and that's where it all really broke.